Exactly 1 year ago, 7 very large automakers got together and announced that they were going to partner and form an electric vehicle charging network in North America. Those manufacturers were BMW, Mercedes, General Motors, Stellantis, Hyundai, Kia, and Honda. They were joined by Toyota a few months later, making it 8 large manufacturers. The goal was to completely blanket North America with high-speed electric vehicle DC fast chargers. Now, over the course of this last year, I've produced 4 separate videos on the Ionna Network, including interviews with their CEO. I visited a couple of their sites that were in what they called a public beta, where the network wasn't officially open, but it was open for use. They were using that to collect a lot of data. And now they're doing their full-scale official opening on February 4th, which will have happened by the time this video airs. But the reason why I'm mentioning that date is because tomorrow is February 4th, and I will be flying down to Apex, North Carolina to visit the official ribbon-cutting ceremony of Ionna. And there, I'm going to have the opportunity to talk to representatives from all 8 of these manufacturers. I'm hoping to have enough time to talk to all 8 of the companies, because I have 4 questions prepared that I want to ask each company representative just to see if they're all in alignment with their thoughts on the Ionna network. Now, over this past year, Ionna has already begun to open sites. They have over 100 sites in contract and in various stages of development, with some of the sites actually open. They plan to have over 1,000 charging bays open by the end of 2025. That's charging bays, not sites. And on average, they have 8 to 10 charging bays per location. So you could do the math and figure out about how many locations they're going to have. They didn't provide the exact number of locations. They also announced that they're going to be employing cutting-edge AI-powered Amazon payment systems. So at the event, hoping to learn a little bit more about this, I'm going to record the ribbon-cutting ceremony. That's going to have a presentation by Seth, Cutler, Ionna's CEO, and perhaps a few other people. And then I'm going to try to get a representative from each one of these companies. Hopefully I'll get someone from each company. We don't have a lot of time. I only have about 1 hour and 45 minutes. So I'm hoping to get all 8 representatives on camera. Maybe I'll fall a little short, maybe not, but you're going to find out really soon. And with that said, let's get into it. So one thing that Ionna has continuously said is that they want to elevate the charging experience. They've talked about how some of the other networks out there perhaps don't offer amenities, security, a good charging experience in general, and they're going to fix that. And they have 3 different types of locations, which Ionna calls rechargeries, which is interesting. They don't call them charging stations. They're called rechargeries. And they have rechargeries, they have rechargeries at, and then they have rechargery relays. So let's take a look at the differences between the 3 different Ionna locations. So first up, let's look all the way to the right to the rechargery, which is the highest level of charging site that Ionna is going to offer. You can see they have genuine Ionna dispensers, which you would expect, which currently are 400 kilowatt Alpatronic units, safe and well-lit charging area, which we all want, and we know in many instances that's not the case on some of the other networks out there. It will have canopy coverage, there's restrooms, food and drink, and there'll also be a driver's lounge for people to go and sit inside and relax while their vehicle is charging. Then we have the rechargery ats. Now these are locations, think of like a Sheetz, which is one of the companies that Ionna currently has a contract with. It's a convenience store along many major highway corridors. There's Tesla charging stations at some Sheetz locations. There's also Electrify America chargers at some Sheetz locations. So Ionna is following that model, and they're going to be putting some of their chargers at Sheetz locations. But Ionna will have other partners where they have Rechargery at. I'm just using Sheetz as an example. And at those locations, they'll have the Ionna genuine dispensers. It'll be safe and well-lit areas and with canopy coverage. However, the restrooms, food and drink, and driver's lounge, which will be available, will be provided by the partner. In this case that I mentioned, Sheetz. So it's their restroom, their food and drink, and their driver's lounge. Ionna just wants to make sure you understand they're not in control of that part of the amenities, but they will be there and always accessible. And then finally, we have the Rechargery Relay, which is the, we'll say, lowest level of Ionna Rechargery. And at those stations, Ionna's only guaranteeing the genuine Ionna dispensers and a safe and well-lit charging area. They're saying that canopy coverage, restrooms, food and drink, and a driver's lounge will only be provided when possible. Now, I think in a lot of these locations, you're going to have many of these amenities, maybe not canopy coverage, but you'll have restrooms, food and drink, perhaps a place to sit, but probably for limited hours. Imagine if it was in the parking lot of a Starbucks or a Panera or something like that, where you have those amenities while that business is open. While it's not, you're just going to be sitting in your car, I guess, waiting to charge. Now, this is a slight departure from some of the conversations I've had with Ionna previously, where they said at all of their locations, they'll have all of these amenities. So I'm going to follow up and talk with Ionna about this in a future interview that hopefully I'll be able to schedule just a few weeks down the road. Okay, so we're hearing all the right things from Ionna so far, but quite honestly, it's easy to talk. It's a lot harder to actually get it done. And the proof is ultimately going to be in the pudding, as they say. And I'm going to be following Ionna really closely and letting you know if they're living up to their promises or not. So they're promising 1,000 charging bays open by the end of 2025 with cross-country travel possible. Now, if you do the math, they promised 30,000 charging bays by the end of 2029 or by 2030. So they would need to have about 6,000 per year. So they're way behind in the first year, but that's to be expected. It always is the hardest to get the ball rolling. We've seen that with some of the other networks. The first year or two is always the most difficult. And then, they pick up steam and start installing stations at a much faster clip. So we'll watch Ionna about that. And I'll have the opportunity to talk with them directly in the near future. And we're going to talk about rollout plans and things like that really soon. But this event tomorrow, I don't plan on interviewing anybody from Ionna. I really just want to talk to the 8 companies that are part of Ionna. And I'm going to ask all of the representatives the same 4 questions because I want to hear what they have to say. I'm going to ask them, why are they doing this? They don't install gas stations. Why do they find it necessary to get together and spend so much money on EV charging infrastructure? I mean, I know the answer. I think many of the followers here know the answer, but I want to hear what the companies have to say about that. I'm going to talk about reliability, the fact that a lot of the networks out there today aren't very reliable. And I'm going to ask them point blank, why is Ionna going to be different? What are you going to do to ensure that the customer has a better charging experience? I'm then going to ask them a question that's a little political. We have a new administration here in the US, and the current administration has a much less enthusiastic view of electric vehicle adoption than the previous administration did. And they promised to cut funding for infrastructure. We may lose the federal tax credit. Electric vehicle adoption may slow up in the US over the next few years. I want to know if these representatives believe that they should then pull back a little bit on Ionna, maybe not hit the goals that they had already told us they were going to hit 30,000 charging bays in the next 5 years. So I'm going to ask them if they think that Ionna might be impacted by the current administration. We'll see how they handle that one. I know they're going to want to tiptoe over that subject. No OEM likes talking politics, just so you know that. And then finally, I'm going to talk about charging speed, or I'm going to ask them about charging speed. I want to know what each company representative believes is an acceptable amount of time to add 200 miles of driving range to their electric vehicles. Now, I'm not expecting all of the representatives to actually be able to handle that question, because I don't know who I'm going to get. I might get someone from PR. I might get that company's Ionna board member. I may get somebody from their charging team. So, I'm really curious to see how each company answers that question. But it's a valid question, and I think it's something that they should be able to answer. So, okay, with that said, I'm going to head out now and head down to Apex. I'm going to record the press conference. I believe Ionna's CEO, Seth Cutler, is going to be the one that kicks that off. And then we'll jump into the interviews that I have with as many representatives as I can. So let's jump into that now. This video was sponsored by Qmerit, North America's premier installer of electric vehicle charging equipment. After I've helped you decide which electric vehicle charger you're going to buy, follow the link in the description of my videos and have Qmerit install it. And if you follow that link, Qmerit will waive the $150 installation deposit. But in order to have the deposit waived, you must follow the link in the description of my videos.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. For those that don't know me, my name is Seth Cutler, and I'm the CEO of Ionna. Thank you. Thank you. It's an absolute honor to be here today at Ionna's Apex Rechargery, our first ever charging station that we built, surrounded by some of the very folks who helped make this vision a reality. Today is an historic day, not just for Ionna, but for all of us and the joint effort that we together represent. We're gathered here with the top executives of the world's leading automakers, our partners in building something that has never been achieved before, in unison, in collaboration, and at scale in the United States. We're joined by government officials, the media, industry leaders, and most importantly, the EV community, EV drivers, the people that will power this network as we earn their trust through their journeys. To all of you, I extend our deepest gratitude for joining us on this occasion. You know, just 1 year ago, Ionna was an idea, a bold commitment by 8 of the world's largest automakers to create a charging network that drivers and consumers could depend on, that they could rely on. Today, I'm proud to be up here to tell you that vision is real. With over 100 sites contracted in the last several months, the Ionna team is on track to bring more than 1,000 high-power charging bays online in 2025, scaling to 30,000 charging bays by the end of 2030. This is a network built for drivers by those who know them best. We're not building just another legacy charging network. We're building an experience, one that puts drivers first, that prioritizes reliability, that integrates technology seamlessly from the grid to the steering wheel, and that offers the freedom to travel wherever the American road may lead. We measured twice and we cut once. Over the past months, we've tested, we've iterated, and we've refined with over 4,000 charging sessions, over 80 vehicle models, and nearly 63 megawatt hours of energy dispensed. We learned from real drivers, we worked with them, and we incorporated their feedback into our charging sites, including the one that you see here today. Our commitment to you is to continue working with consumers and the EV community to drive continuous improvement as we work towards a best-in-class charging experience. This is more than just infrastructure, though. This is a commitment to American ingenuity, innovation, and job creation to solve a problem that until now proved to be elusive. Every site we build means new opportunities for American workers, from construction crews to software engineers. Every rechargery that we open is another step toward ensuring EV drivers have a choice, a real choice, from the showroom to the moment they hit the open road. Ionna is bound only by the limits of our collective imagination and efforts. And that is why we are not stopping simply at fast, reliable charging stations with well-lit locations and clean bathrooms. We are redefining what a charging station and a charging experience can be. In fact, beginning in Q1 of this year, our Garner, North Carolina location, located just miles from this very site, currently under construction, will go live, where we'll introduce AI-powered, just walk out convenience stores built in collaboration with Amazon. No lines, no hassle, just charge, grab what you need, and when you and your car are fully recharged, get back out on those open roads. We will be developing the most integration-rich charging network in America. Plug and charge, AI-driven smart reservations, route optimizations, in-car app payments, etc. Every automaker represented here today has contributed to making this network the most seamless, the most advanced, and the most customer-centric network in the industry. And this is just the beginning. To our automakers and partners, this is your network. You helped build it. And together we will scale it at an unprecedented pace. To our government leaders, thank you for standing with us as we invest in American jobs and American infrastructure. To the media and industry leaders, let drivers know that the Ionna team is bold, humble, and ready to meet them on the open road. And to the million of EV drivers across the country, this network is for you, built not to force change, but to give you the freedom, reliability, and the choice that you deserve. What you see here today is Ionna. This is our vision of what charging in America should have always been. And I'm excited to say that this Ionna team is just getting started. Thank you. We're grateful to have Secretary Reid Wilson of the North Carolina DEQ with us here today. Secretary Wilson has been a decades-long servant to the preservation and advocacy of natural resources. Secretary Wilson.
Thank you, Seth. Good afternoon, everyone. Wow, there's a lot of you out here, and I can understand why. How cool is this? How innovative is this? How is this going to change how people get around this country in the coming years? It's just amazing. I'm blown away. So congratulations to the Ionna team and to the 8 manufacturers who have made today happen. This rechargery is the first of its kind in the whole nation. I mean, this is a really big deal here today in Apex. I'm excited to serve as Secretary of the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. This is my 5th week on the job. So I'm still learning a lot, but there's one thing I know already, and that's that our department plays a critical role in every North Carolinian's life, protecting their health, protecting our air, land, and water, and helping to boost our state's economy. Our work does support a strong economy in North Carolina in many ways, and I think we all recognize and acknowledge and embrace the fact that environmental protection and economic growth go hand in hand. They are intertwined every step of the way. A healthy environment is good for employees, good for business, good for the families who are fortunate enough to call North Carolina home. And thanks to this state's talented workers, workforce training programs, and strong infrastructure, North Carolina has become the epicenter of the clean energy economy. Our work to advance the clean energy economy is good for our environment, good for people, good for our pocketbooks. And we are seeing the results as companies bring thousands of well-paid jobs to our state. Today's milestone is just more proof of that. At DEQ, we're focused on ensuring businesses have the support they need to succeed. We are closely involved with large-scale economic development projects. As new projects or expansions are planned, we are in the room on the front end as a partner to help those businesses, offering a whole-of-department approach so that they can get their projects moving in an environmentally responsible manner. We are required to be thorough, and we are, but we do our work as expeditiously as possible. We value our strong partnership with the North Carolina Department of Commerce, represented today by Chief Deputy Secretary Jordan Richard right there, and our relationship with the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina. From manufacturing electric vehicles, to their batteries, to charging stations, North Carolina has jobs in every link of the electric vehicle supply chain. Our state is committed to continuing to expand its clean energy economy, and it is a point of pride that people now call North Carolina the Battery Belt. Ionna's innovative charging technology is helping us continue to lead the way in North Carolina, and obviously there are important environmental and public health benefits here. Less air pollution, fewer greenhouse gases going up into the sky. You know, I think all of us in North Carolina take great pride that for the last 5 years, CNBC has said we're one of the top 3 business states in the country. And it's because our government is committed to work with businesses to both promote their work and to protect our environment. My job at DEQ is to work with businesses, the environmental community, all the stakeholders, other government agencies to ensure we remain one of the top states for business. It's just a wonderful thing to see this collaboration between 8 major automakers to ensure we have world-class infrastructure here for charging electric vehicles. I'm probably not alone in saying that for years I've heard people say, I really want an electric vehicle, but I just don't know about the charging stations. Will there be enough? Well, this announcement today, I think, and Ionna's aggressive plans to get to 30,000 of these rechargeries in the near future is just a resounding answer to that concern. And the answer is yes, we will have enough chargers very soon. So if you're interested in an electric vehicle, now might be the time to go get it before everyone else does. So congratulations again to everyone who helped make. They're excited too. Thanks to everyone for making this day happen. I know it's been a lot of work, and there's a lot more work to do, but this is an incredible milestone. And now it is my pleasure to introduce to you Apex Mayor Jacques Gilbert. Mr. Mayor.
That train is right on time. We scheduled it that way to bring the excitement to the peak of good living. As the mayor of Apex, if this is your first time here, you are one of the most fortunate people in America because you are in the peak of good living. Apex, North Carolina. How about that? So it is truly a wonderful afternoon, and of course, what we do in Apex just to make sure you are receiving good hospitality. We got the sunshine here for you, and we have a nice day for a ribbon cutting ceremony for Apex Rechargeries. Now, Ionna Rechargeries, excuse me, but this is an exciting day for Apex, and today we stand at the intersection of history and innovation where the past meets the future to create something truly transformative. In the opening of the Ionna Rechargery, I've been waiting for this day for quite some time, and I remember Seth came into my office and he sat there and he described this vision, and I was totally on board. The hardest thing for me is that I had to keep it quiet. That was tough. But here we are today, so many people here celebrating this golden moment in the peak of good living. Before I move on with the rest of my remarks, I do want to recognize some of the government officials who are here celebrating this moment with you. We have from our council, Mayor Pro Tem Ed Gray, if you please stand and be acknowledged. Councilman Terry Mahaffey. Councilman Arno Zagerman. And from the congressional delegation, Congresswoman Valerie Foushee, and Salima is here representing her today, so thank you for being here. From our county commissioners, we have the chair, Susan Evans. We have Vice Chair Don Mile, and Commissioner Cheryl Stallings. By the way, she's a former town council member for the town of Apex. And of course, from our team at the town of Apex, we do have Deputy Town Manager Sean Purvis, and from our economic development team, Colleen Moraes and Barbara Balesic. Thank you all for being here. So I do want to add a personal note about this location. I can remember growing up in this town, and remember this site was a Phillips 66. And I remember my parents used to bring us here. They depended on this for fuel, and they sold honey buns. And I remember they would make sure I got a honey bun if I was nice. So what we're doing today is transforming this. Today, this same site is being reborn, not as a relic of the past, but as a beacon for the future, and that's pretty exciting. And of course, all has been mentioned today, providing cutting-edge EV charging infrastructure that will power the next generation of transportation. And this transformation reflects our unwavering commitment to innovation, sustainability, and smart growth. But here's the big key. It's been said today so many times where when an individual or individuals get together and they identify a problem, and then they say, here's a solution, and they collaborate and move it forward. So I love collaboration. We love collaboration in the town of Apex. So between Ionna and our local leadership here and the economic development teams, and of course, the powerful automotive industry, we thank you for your collaboration. So again, this is not just about charging cars. It's about our commitment to sustainability. And Apex is proud to be leading the way toward a 100% clean energy future by 2050. And with initiatives like this, we are making real progress toward reducing the carbon footprint right here in the peak of good living. And we believe people, profit, and planet, that's the true model because we are the peak of good living. So as we cut the ribbon today, and we're going to get right to that because we heard from two dynamic speakers, and when you put a politician on a microphone, they can go on and on and on and on and on. But we want to get to the ribbon cut, and so I want to thank all of you for joining us today. This is a powerful moment for the town of Apex, pun intended, and I want to thank everyone who worked together to make this a reality. So we're truly reviving the past right here at this site and powering the future. And as I always say, there is nothing we can't accomplish when we work together. This is Apex, the peak of good living. Now let's cut this ribbon and charge ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Secretary Wilson and Mayor Gilbert. Appreciate the inspiring words and you guys being here today to support us in this important endeavor. It is my great pleasure to conclude today's program with a very special ribbon cutting. It's not often that we can all come together to cut a ribbon. Today, we're going to cut 10 ribbons, each with our founding OEM partners, the Ionna team that's on site, and then we have our team at our headquarters location in Durham as we cut our ribbon today for our Customer Experience Center that are also here. So with that, I'm going to ask all the OEM representatives to come up and join at your respective vehicles. The Ionna team on site, come join me at the ribbon by the monitor, and then I'm going to count us down once we hand out scissors to cut these ribbons together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, Ionna!
Okay, so I'm here with Jay from Honda. Jay, could you tell the listeners what exactly you do for Honda?
Yeah, Tom, I work for Honda, American Honda, and I'm the VP of Sustainability and Business Development.
Very good. Listen, first question. Honda, long history, making cars. You never had to build gas stations.
That's true.
So why is this necessary? Why did you have to get together with these manufacturers and pour so much money into funding to install this network? You know, what's different with electric?
Yeah, electric is an emerging technology, and people are going to realize that it's nicer to drive, it's a better experience overall. But we're just approaching the tipping point where people start to realize that in really big numbers. We're not there yet. Mm-hmm. So as a group of automakers, collectively, we decided that it was important to seed that and to help people have more confidence in charging. And that's why we decided to work together to build Ionna and make public charging much more available, much more visible, much more accessible. But also, Ionna isn't just setting out to be another charge point. Ionna is setting out to provide a better charging experience. So people can learn it's not just like putting gas in your car, it's better, it's more flexible. It doesn't just have one purpose like gasoline does. You can put energy into your car and take it out and use it for other things. So we're just trying to seed that and get that realization started.
Okay, Ionna's not the first network that's out there. There's quite a few.
That's right.
And one of the biggest problems of the existing networks has been reliability. In fact, in some instances, it's been so bad, it has driven people out of their electric car. It's one thing to install 30,000 chargers. It's another thing to have them work. And when people pull up, rely on the fact that they can just plug in and have it work. Is Ionna going to be better? And if so, why?
What a great question. Obviously, you've spent a lot of time and burned a lot of brain cells on this because that is the challenge. And you're right. There are networks out there that aren't reliable, where you pull up and it's not always working correctly, or it's not even where it's supposed to be because it's already moved and the map is out of date. That is unacceptable. If we start with the paradigm of comparing it to gasoline, which is not the right comparison, but it's the reference point we all have. If we start with that, there are tens of thousands of gas stations in the United States today. It's easy, it's accessible. Now, an important difference is you don't have to go to a chargery to get electricity for your BEV. If you have a single family home or you've got other options, you can do most of your charging at home. So that's why it's a false paradigm. But what the good networks have realized is that they set themselves apart by being very reliable, by being very accessible, by having good security and safety, by being well lit, by doing everything right to create a good customer experience. They're focused on the important thing. How does the customer feel about going there to charge their car? Ionna understands that the best networks out there today aren't the best possible experience. There's room to improve on that. Number one, reliability. The station has to be working when you get there, and you have to know that it'll be working when you get there. Beyond that, we can provide a better experience. You can see this beautiful bakery over here, access to clean bathrooms that are being staffed and well taken care of, and not just open for anybody to run through, but if you're an Ionna user, then you can get access. So things like that are what will set it apart. Building on that foundation of as near to perfect reliability as is possible. Okay. Good hardware, good software, everything has to work and be maintained.
Okay. The current administration has a different outlook than the previous administration on electric vehicles. Funding is going to dry up. The tax credit may go away. Ionna has come out and stated that they're going to have 30,000 charging bays by 2030. If the say uptake of electric vehicle adoption slows down, will you slow your pace of installing these stations just say to match demand, or are you going to stick to what you had promised?
We have no intention at this moment of changing any of our plans. Ionna is committed to 2,100 sites with 30,000 charge points by 2030, and there's no reason to slow that down, because no matter what happens in one administration, and it doesn't really matter, Ionna's got a long view on this, beyond who's sitting in office at any given point in time. Those things will change. We intended Ionna to weather those type of changes from the very beginning. We have to have 30,000 highly reliable charge points that provide an excellent customer experience to attract more people to BEV. The subsidies will come and go, and they're helpful, but we have to make the vehicles appealing enough on their own that they're not dependent on that as soon as we can. Good access to reliable, high-quality public charging experiences is part of that equation.
Okay. So I always talk about on my channel how long it takes to add 200 miles of driving range. I think that's kind of a benchmark. When you're at a DC fast charger, 200 miles gives you 3+ hours of driving, and it's a good, it'll get you to the next DC fast charger.
Right.
Some vehicles take as little as 10, 11 minutes. Some vehicles take 45, 50 minutes to add 200 miles of driving range. What do you view as an acceptable amount of time to add 200 miles of driving range?
What's acceptable in my mind is about a minute less than any customer expects it to be. We have to build this on the customer experience. And you just touched on all the variables that go into that. Ionna is doing everything that Ionna can do to speed that up, because everything will be 350 kilowatt hour or faster hardware at the Ionna stations. The limiting factor is going to be on the vehicle side. I really believe that we need to see sub 30-minute consistently, and if we can get down to 10 to 20 minute range that you mentioned earlier, that's probably in the ballpark, because that's not a big difference from what it takes to fill a tank of gasoline today.
Right, and then Chinese companies are doing it in like 5 minutes these days. But,
yeah,
but that's a whole other kettle of fish.
Well, and the battery chemistries continue to get better. The vehicle hardware that enables the charging speeds continues to get better. We'll see higher voltage and higher capacity as we go forward, and as batteries follow that kind of Moore's curve of improving performance at reduced cost, then I think we'll start to see those times drop dramatically, and especially once we get to solid state.
Okay, listen, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Good
Pleasure.
luck with Ionna.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Okay, so I'm here with Chris Yang from Toyota. Chris, thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Tell us what you do for Toyota.
I'm the Group Vice President of Business Development that leads our EV charging team at Toyota.
Okay, you're the man to talk to.
Yes.
So first question, Chris. Toyota has a long storied history. I've owned about 10 Toyotas
thank
myself.
you very much.
Tacomas in particular. I think I've
you.
owned 6 Tacomas. And I'll buy one when one comes out electric. That's my next one.
Thank you.
But you've never had to help your customers refuel their vehicles. And I've talked to many OEMs throughout the years, and many of them years ago have said, we build the cars. We don't refuel them. That's not our responsibility. But now we're seeing the tide is changing. A lot of the OEMs, including the 8 here today, are understand that in order to have a happy customer, you have to help them recharge their vehicle. So what was the change? Why all of a sudden now are manufacturers saying we need to install charging?
Yeah, I think great question. You know, as Toyota transforms from an auto company to a mobility company, I think our mindset needs to change. You know, the customer is always at the center of our strategy, and really for EVs, that charging experience is integral to that customer experience. We have to make sure that charging experience is seamless, that it's a quality experience, and that's part of the ownership experience. And so we felt that, really to lean in on the charging experience, making sure that's part of the BEV kind of ownership experience is going to be really important for us.
Okay. Ionna's not the first network to come out there. There's quite a few of them. And quite honestly, most of them don't have a great reputation for reliability. And reliability has been a problem. And it's actually pushed some people out of an EV that they bought. Is Ionna going to be better? And if so, why? Why should the public have faith that this network's going to be more reliable and they can count on it when they pull in to charge?
You're absolutely right. You have to have a quality experience when you're charging. Ionna, I think, is really focused on a couple things. One is that customer experience. When you come here, the canopies, the amenities, the ability to have a safe, lit place to charge is something that the customers really look for when they're shopping for a BEV. And also interoperability. The ability for us 8 OEMs to come in advance to be able to test our cars with the chargers in advance of the release, make sure that they work. And it's not that we're pulling up to a charger and just hoping it works. Our ability to really test our software, our vehicles with the chargers in advance really provides that ease of mind for the customer.
Okay. The current administration has a different view on electric vehicles as the previous one. They've made it clear that funding's going to dry up, the tax credit may go away, electric vehicle adoption over the next few years may slow up. Is Ionna going to change its plans based on how many people buy electric vehicles? You promised 30,000 charging stalls in 5 years. Are you going to slow that up now if electric vehicle adoption slows up, or are you going to stick to that?
I think we'll have to talk to Seth about his plans, but I think for Toyota, we've always stayed true to the multi-path approach, which is to really provide the customer what it wants, whether it's battery electric, it's hydrogen, hybrid, or traditional ICE vehicles. It's what the customer wants. And I think BEV is a part of that strategy for us now and in the future as well.
Okay, so it could be a moving target, 30,000 charging stalls in 5 years.
Well, I think that's for Seth to answer, yes.
Okay,
yes.
Okay, and I'll ask him that later.
Okay, yes, I would.
Final question. I always use 200 miles as kind of like my benchmark. When you're stopping at a DC fast charger, how long does it take to add 200 miles of range? And the spread out there is somewhere between 10 minutes or 11 minutes to as much as 40, 45 minutes on some electric vehicles. As far as throughput on your stations, what do you view as an acceptable time to say, add 200 miles of range when you're charging?
It's an interesting question. Our studies show that, a lot of times people don't need 200 miles of range when they come to public charging. A lot of times people think they do before they own a BEV. I own a BZ myself. A lot of times when I do public charging, it's more top off. I'm at 40%. I need to get to 60 or 70, 80%. That being said, I think that range you highlighted, that 10 to 30 is probably ideal, yes.
10 to 30 minutes. Yeah. Okay. Yes. All right. Listen, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Good luck with Ionna.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm here with Alexandra Schleiger from BMW. Alexandra, tell us what you do with BMW.
I'm the head of e-mobility at BMW of North America, so responsible for our overall EV strategy and also the charging enablers.
Okay, I remember the days when Rich Steinberg was in charge of e-mobility at BMW.
I know him very well.
Rich and I had a lot of communication back in the early BMW e-mobility days.
Great.
So, all right, couple questions. BMW has never had to install gas stations, but now you're getting involved with electric vehicle charging, and actually you've been for a while. I actually had a charger installed on the East Coast charging network back in like 2014 when you were partnered with ChargePoint to do that. I installed one on one of my properties. So BMW has been installing infrastructure, but you know, this is a whole nother level now. Why is this necessary?
And I do believe that with the shift to e-mobility, which we as BMW are 100% committed, you actually mentioned we started back in the days with our i3 in 2013, and I think since then we've rolled out a quite significant portfolio of electric vehicles. I think it's changing customer behavior, and like one of the top topics for customers these days is how can I charge publicly? And we all know that in the US these days we have too few public chargers out there, and with Ionna we wanted to actually create that igniting spark to get charging infrastructure going and develop that secure feeling for our customers that wherever they go, they find a charging spot.
Okay. So finding the charging spot and having it work are two different things. The networks that are out there currently, one of the biggest problems is reliability. And it's actually driven some people out of their electric cars. I even remember I ran into a BMW i4 driver a year or two ago that was at an Electrify America site that was down, and they couldn't make it to the next site. And they said, that's it, I'm done with this electric car. So having these installed and having them working are two different things.
100%.
Is Ionna going to be better? And if so, why? Why are you going to do this better than what's out there?
I think Ionna is definitely going to be better. First of all, it has the commitment of 8 OEMs as such, uniting quite a volume behind them, and I think we value the customer feedback coming in every day, and we want to make sure that this is not just about adding more POIs in the map of a vehicle and making it possible to charge, but I actually look at the customer experience for the customer, right? They want to have an integrated experience. So I don't want to like download multiple apps. I want to have everything integrated into, in our case, the My BMW app and our navigation system. It will automatically navigate you to that station. It will make recommendations, should I pick this station or the other station? Obviously there the integration of the Ionna Network will play a significant role. But if you then arrive at a charging station such as Ionna, you want to make sure that once you're plugged in, you have something else to do. And that's why with Ionna, we want to make a difference in terms of providing canopies over that for weather, to accommodate for weather circumstances. We want to make sure that there's lighting in there so that when you're coming in late hours, you feel safe. We want to make sure that there are convenience opportunities, vending machines, cafeterias, bathrooms available so that customers get everything they need in order to hopefully be gone after 15-20 minutes when they have had a successful charge.
Yeah, and that's the key. It has to be a successful charge. So the new administration here in the US has a different position on electric vehicles than the previous administration. It looks like they're going to be holding back on funding. We might lose the federal tax credit. Ionna has made some bold statements about installing 30,000 charging stalls by 2030. If electric vehicle adoption slows up because the administration tries to put the brakes on it, will you slow up your installation of these chargers, or are you going to stick on that same plan?
As I said earlier, BMW is 100% committed in the growth of electric mobility, and we do believe that charging is a relevant piece in all of that equation. So whatever happens, public charging needs to grow. We are undersupplied these days, so we want to make sure that we have a steady pace in rolling out the chargers, and it will stay like this independent of individual policies or incentives.
Okay, last question, talking about throughput at the stations. I always talk about on my channel, how long does it take to add 200 miles of driving range to an EV? I think that's a good benchmark when you're DC fast charging on a road trip. What do you think is an acceptable amount of time to add 200 miles of range to a BMW?
I think in the ultimate state of the of e-mobility, I think 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes would be something acceptable for the customers, especially if you think about a long distance trip, you have to stop anyways. Obviously, it will take like some time until we get there, as the technology on the EV side and also the technology on the charging infrastructure side will improve. But just to give you an example, I mean, these chargers of Ionna out here, they are capable of 400 kW charging right away. So if you have a 100 kWh battery, as we have with like some of those vehicles, or the BMW iX as an example, 400 kW will technically get you that charge in like 10 to 15 minutes.
As long as you design it to accept that much power.
That's what I was saying. I think the technology on the EV side still needs to develop in that direction, but I'm sure our like next generation, which will actually gonna come out, which we'll announce this year and then come out next year, we're going to make a huge step in that direction.
Okay, listen, that's all I have. Thank you for your time and good luck with Ionna.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, so I'm here with Chad Doyle from Stellantis. Chad, tell us a little bit about what you do for Stellantis.
So at Stellantis, I'm in the software group as part of the overall product development and tech organization, and responsible for our software planning and program management for all the software and modules we put on cars. And another one of my responsibilities is being part of here as the Stellantis board member for Ionna.
Okay, first question. Stellantis doesn't provide gas stations. Why is it important for you to invest so much in public charging network like Ionna?
So from our perspective, what is critically important to us is staying at the front of that customer experience and giving an experience to the customers where, you know, helping to eliminate, reduce charging anxiety concerns as we're seeing the introduction of EVs into the market. And really this is an opportunity to work collectively together, the number of other OEMs, to really bring something that puts customer at the center, while we give a consistent experience in what is hoping to be obviously a network across the United States and Canada.
Okay, the consistent experience is what we're going to talk about right now. There's a lot of networks out there. I don't need to name them. One of the biggest problems, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people share this opinion, has been reliability. It has literally driven people out of electric cars. I know this for a fact, that got electric cars, they had such poor public charging experiences, they sold the car. Is Ionna going to be better? And if it is, why? Like, why should people have faith in you?
We have in working with the board and with the Ionna management team, what they had early on and was installed in the very first chargers and monitoring is they have that 24/7 monitoring. They actually have a network operations center where they're tracking these things. So we know performance and uptime to each individual charging unit. And there's a whole set of activities that we've reviewed in terms of the day-to-day operations of how they're running and supporting these units. And even with the first betas, the Ionna team was already sharing with the board, here's what our performance looks like, here's how we're paying attention to uptime. And Seth and the team can give you more details, but at the end of the day, what we're actually seeing is initial performance higher than what they were even targeting. So really strong performance early on the first set of locations. And they're continuing to monitor that. So I think there's a difference there where there's a real attention to that experience from the moment we started.
I hope so, because we have heard similar talk from other networks.
Sure.
So let's see, the proof will be in the pudding.
Actions speak louder than words, absolutely. So let's see what time tells as we ramp up.
Absolutely. The current administration here in the U.S. has a different view of electric vehicles. We've heard about cutting funding, we've heard about stop subsidizing them, we've heard a lot of things. You guys have set some pretty aggressive goals, 30,000 charging bays by 2030.
Yes.
You know, all three different types of locations, all this. The fact that we have a new administration with different policies, is that going to affect Ionna's rollout? Are you going to pull back a little bit maybe and see what the market dictates, or are you sticking to your original forecasts?
Yeah, so there's a clear plan, and so we're reviewing that plan each year. There's the original forecast and the ambition. That ambition could potentially change as the board reviews with Seth and the team. Clearly the plan for 2025 remains intact. As you know, as you look at some of the information that we've seen, the market continues, even with what's out there today, to be underserviced. So the idea is to service the market, to give that great experience, and to continue to stay close to what's happening. Right, so that clear initiative of moving to over 100 sites and over 1,000 charge points in this year remains in effect. And the idea is to continue to review the business plan on an annualized basis that says, do we continue to go at this scale? Do we speed up? Do we throttle it? I think that'll be dependent as the board discusses with the Ionna team about how we move forward.
Okay, last question. You know, refueling combustion vehicles is very, very quick. with electric vehicles, it takes a little bit longer, but those times are getting compressed.
Yes.
It doesn't matter how long it takes when you charge at home, but it really does matter how long it takes when you're at a DC fast charging site like this, particularly if you're on a long trip and you just want to charge and move on. I always use 200 miles as like my benchmark. How long does it take to get 200 miles added to this electric vehicle? What do you view as an acceptable stop at a DC fast charger, time-wise, miles added, something like that? Do you have a view on that?
Yeah, I think certainly you certainly want to be underneath that 20-minute max. Ideally, the closer in the way that charging improves, so you get it around to 10 minutes or so would be fantastic. Obviously, as the battery technology advances, the chemical composition of batteries advances, I think you'll continue to see those times. And why do I say somewhere between that 10 and 20, the 10 being more ideal, is because at the end of the day, it's enough time for you to start your charge. You may go in and use the restroom. You may grab something to drink like you typically would in a gas station. And you're getting closer and closer to that sort of time frame, which really the customer, that's what their experience is, that's what they're used to. So the closer we get to that, I think you start to see broader and broader adoption and customer choice and moving towards that.
Mr. Ted, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck with Ionna.
Thank you for being here this afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm here with GM now and Wade Sheffer. Wade, could you tell us what you do for GM and what's your relationship with Ionna?
Absolutely. I'm Wade Sheffer, responsible as the Vice President for GM Energy. And specifically for Ionna, I am one of the board members.
Okay, great. Okay, so automakers have never had to help their customers refuel combustion vehicles. I know this isn't General Motors' first foray into electric vehicle charging infrastructure, but why is this so different? Why is it so different that you felt compelled to make such a huge investment to help your customers refuel their vehicles?
Well, I'll start with just a quick history snippet. Back in 1920, there was 15,000 fuel stations. By 1930, it grew to 100,000. Again, keeping up with that demand. Now, in this day and age, we have an EV customer that has different expectations. And so we're there to meet them where they are. And what that means is really providing them an experience really like none other. So what does that require? It requires reliability and high quality. And very importantly, having that charging station available where you need it most, right? So for us, being able to engage in that ecosystem is highly critical for our customers.
Okay, this Ionna isn't the first network out there. We've got a bunch of them. Reliability has been probably the biggest problem, and I think it scared some electric vehicle owners out of their vehicles because when they've needed to charge, they weren't able to. And some people have turned in their electric car, sold it because they said public charging just wasn't ready yet. What is the Ionna network going to be better? Is it going to be more reliable? And if so, why is that? What are you doing differently?
Yeah, that's a great point. That reliability becomes really important to our customers. And specifically for Ionna, very importantly, they did an extensive amount of testing, all right? So over 4,400 charge events with 80 distinct models out there across the network, including dispensing over 68,000 kilowatts of electrons, right, or of energy into those vehicles. And so what's very important for us is that interoperability is just really ultimately deeply seated in the focus for this company. And for us, it's really critical. So as we add more vehicles to the mix, guess what? We know they have the ability to test them, execute it, and that interoperability that leads to that reliability is going to only go up. So again, it is going to set the standard and continue to set the standard as we go forward.
Okay. The current administration has a different view on electric vehicles as the previous one. Now, this isn't a political question. I know people like to stay away from that. This is an Ionna question. You set goals on how many chargers you wanted to have out by 2030, 30,000 charging stalls, a bunch of locations. Now that the tide perhaps is changing with regards to public funding, is Ionna going to rethink its plans, maybe have a little bit of a slower rollout? Are you going to pace your rollout to electric vehicle car sales, or are you sticking with your original numbers?
Well, we all know what the state of charging is now, right? And over time, what's going to happen is as we grow out the network, and ultimately, it may ultimately catch up with that the EV drivers. And if that were to be the case, boy, would they be happy, right? Ultimately, what we both know And what we're focused on from a General Motors perspective is ultimately do the right thing for that customer each and every time. And what that means is we're going to continue moving forward.
Okay, you're going to stick with the goals that you had originally planned?
We are going to continue moving forward, absolutely. We believe that the EV adoption is going to only increase over time.
Okay, final question. How long it takes for you to add miles is important at a DC fast charger. Nobody wants to hang out, as beautiful of a site as this is, for an hour.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of use a benchmark of how long it takes to add 200 miles of range. And some electric vehicles can do it in as little as 10 minutes. Well, in China, they can do it in 5 minutes these days.
That's true.
But some, and some of General Motors electric vehicles can add miles really quickly too, because you have a high charge rate on some of them. What would you consider an acceptable stop at, like a charging station, to add about 200 miles of range, time-wise? Is that something that you guys have thought of? Like you'd like to have somebody here for 20 minutes, for 30 minutes? Obviously faster is better, but what's an acceptable time to add range to a vehicle?
Yeah, it's a fair question. Ultimately, the customer will determine what that time is for them. Each customer is going to have a different situation, whether the state of charge of their vehicle, whether they have kids, whether they have a dog, animals, and things of that nature. But this is why this is important, to be able to provide such rechargeries like Ionna's Rechargeries, to have those amenities, to have them have the choice. Right? Be able to provide the technology, the capability, as you see here, the 400 kilowatt chargers, have that ability to make those decisions on their own.
Okay, listen, thanks for your time, I appreciate it.
Very good.
Good luck with Ionna.
Yeah, thank you, Tom.
Okay, so I'm here with Ola Bisi from Hyundai. Why don't you tell me what you do with Hyundai?
I am the Senior Vice President of Product Planning and our Mobility Strategy for Hyundai Motor North America.
Okay, great. Thank you for coming on. First question.
Yes.
You don't help your gasoline customers refuel their vehicles.
Right.
That's not needed. And I know a lot of the OEMs for years had said, we build the cars, it's not our job to refuel them. I'm not saying Hyundai specifically, but I've heard that from a number of OEMs. Why now it seems like many of the OEMs are realizing we have to do this? What changed Hyundai's mind? Why do you feel it's important to install charging?
Okay, so one, I wouldn't say we changed our mind. I think we've always understood that the EV transformation is, this seems maybe trite to say, is not insignificant. This is a significant change, disruption to the industry. So when you have any sort of disruption, it's not only product in this case. Because it's such a significantly different technology, someone's going to have to change their behavior from what was the significant technology before. That means I charge differently. That means I go to a different place to charge. Maybe it takes me different things, different activities to get power in my vehicle. So if there's no way you can take on a challenge like the EV transformation and think that you're not going to have some part of the technology that's going to power this to move. That said, we'll just wait for that to be over. But apparently there's bags of swag here, just so you know. Apparently there's bags of swag here. But so we've understood that this is a transformation that now says, not only do you have to have great EVs with great charging and great charging speeds, you have to be concerned of how they're going to pay for the power, how they're going to get the power in their car, in their homes or outside their homes, and how that's going to work with sort of the in-vehicle technology as well. Now that becomes part of all your activities to move in this EV transformation. So this is not just I'm building a new car. This is we are now going through a transformation where you have to consider all factors.
I agree with that. So Ionna's not the first network. There's a lot of networks out there, and quite honestly, one of the biggest problems that people have with the existing networks is reliability. They have a very bad and well-earned reputation of poor reliability. Is Ionna going to be better? And if so, why? Why should the average person believe you're going to have higher reliability than the networks that are out there already?
Okay, so let's talk about that again in relation to that EV transformation. So, two things. The reason you get 8 competitors, which is very difficult, especially in the auto industry, to come together is because what is clear is that with the charging experience, after you get great EVs, the charging experience has to have 2 things. Especially when you move from the early adopters who might be willing to put up with a lot, to the early majority intenders, which this might be their only vehicle. And they got other issues in their life, they don't need additional issues. So those 8, at least those 8 OEMs came together to say, we are aligned on 2 things. We need to make charging ubiquitous everywhere, and we have to change the customer experience, all right? No, when we move from early adopters to early majority, it's important I go here and I feel safe. It's important I go here and there's lighting. It's important I go here and it is working. It's important I go here and it's available. And so, because this new EV intender is not gonna put up with things that maybe the early adopters put up. And so when the 8 companies came together to fund this joint venture in Ionna, the thought was you have 2 goals: customer experience and ubiquitous. Then we went about hiring a team that believed, and you heard that from Seth earlier today, that believed in those two items. And also having 8 significant industry leaders, we bring our expertise, we bring our product knowledge, we bring all our different products that appeal to different demographics, and are able to help Ionna build something that works for a myriad of customers as we go down this journey. And that's how I think it's going to be different.
Okay. The current administration has a different outlook on electric vehicles than the previous administration. Funding is going to dry up. The tax credit may go away. Electric vehicle adoption may slow up. When Ionna announced that they were going to build this network, they said that they'd have 30,000 charging stalls installed by 2030. If electric vehicle adoption slows up now because of the government incentives drying up and so forth, will Ionna pull back its acceleration of installing the chargers? Will they say, you know, there's not as many electric vehicles, so now maybe we don't need to install as many chargers?
So, again, this is a transformation, and it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and it's a big disruptive change, right? So, at least for Hyundai I can speak, right? When we made this decision to go on the EV transformation, it wasn't dependent on policy or which administration was in office. It was something we were going to do because we believed in the EV transformation, number 1. Number 2, it is important that your product strategy is based on customer demand, not changes in administration. So, of course, we want incentives and we want anything that will promote EV adoption, but that is not the primary driver of our strategy. Customer demand is the fact that we want to be on this electrification journey. So the decisions that we make, funding Ionna, building a plant that makes EVs, making sure we have 800 volt architecture so you can charge fast, making sure you have 300 miles plus AER. Those are decisions we made independent of who's in office. It was a decision we made consistent with where consumer demand was going. And then when we talk about consumer demand, and some would say the change in pace, we also always understood, at Hyundai at least, that there was the early adopters that'll jump on EVs even with all of these challenges. And then there was the early majority. And so we knew that we were going to have a diversity of powertrains. So we had HEVs. It's not like now we have to go come up with an HEV. We had plug-in hybrids. We had ICE, obviously, and we have great EVs that have been third-party recognized to be pretty superior. And so we knew the diversity of powertrain to handle that early majority pace was going to be different from early adopter pace. And our decisions for product strategy and the future are based on customer demand and based on where we were strategizing to go along on this EV transformation. So I understand all those things are changing, and we will adopt to them as much as possible. 2 things that are key: diversity of powertrains and manufacturing flexibility. So I can build either the HEVs or I can build the BEVs as I need, depending on market conditions.
Okay, final question. I always talk about how long it takes to add 200 miles of range when you're on a road trip at a DC fast charger, which is what you're installing, this network of DC fast chargers. Talking about throughput at the sites, it's better for the sites if the cars charge faster. It's better for the customers if the cars charge faster. What do you view as an acceptable amount of time to add 200 miles of range to your vehicles?
We were trying to get it to 20 minutes. And the way we were working to get it to about that 20 minutes was that we thought the biggest enabler for that was this 800 volt architecture. And that is why that's on the EG. And it was actually, if I say so myself, for the team, a prescient decision. Because now, once you have these 400 kilowatt chargers, you know, in various networks, actually you could almost bring our 800 volt architecture. Someone could have been there before you, and you'll get that 200 miles and be able to leave, and they're still waiting at a 400 volt architecture. So to be honest, that's what I mean about these things didn't drive our strategy. We were thinking about those types of things well ahead. That's why there's, at a mass market level, an 800 volt architecture in things like Ioniq 5.
Okay, listen, that's all I have for you here. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Good luck with Ionna.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so I'm here with Nico Detmer. Nico, tell us what you do for Mercedes.
Of course, thanks for having us. My name is Nico Detmer. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the so-called Mercedes charging solution based in Stuttgart headquarters, and I'm trying to drive the EV adoption by providing the most compelling charging ecosystem.
That's great, and that's what we're here to talk about, charging. So first question is, you know, for years, Mercedes is an old company. You didn't have to help your customers refuel their vehicle. Why is it so important that the company invests so much money into helping their electric vehicle customers recharge? You know, you obviously made a huge investment in Ionna here and other charging networks. But could you explain why is that so necessary?
Yeah, I mean, of course, the question there were a time where also we as a company have the same question. Why to invest in fueling station or charging station? But it's really about the need of the customer, and we see the need for more chargers, especially when it comes to the North America. So we need more stations in public, period. And it's about the quality. It's really about the customer experiences where we would like to set a benchmark when it comes to reliability and of course to improve the charging experiences for our Mercedes drivers. So these are the three pillars where we are really striving for.
Great, because that's my next question. There's a lot of networks out there. You know, this Ionna is not the first game in town, but the biggest problem we've had here in North America, at least, is reliability. And it's driven people away from electric vehicles.
Yeah.
Is Ionna going to be better? And if so, why? Why should the customers put faith in this network?
Yeah, Ionna will be definitely better and different, and because of course we have a lot of experienced partners. I mean, GM have other experiences, Hyundai have other experiences, we have other experience, and also in other regions, also long-lasting experiences like the Ionna Network, Ionity Network in Europe, and we try to get all these experiences now in Ionna to do things differently. And I think also, of course, on timing, I mean, there are a lot of learnings in the industry. We now could really drive it into Ionna to improve in front of the customer.
Okay, so here in the US, the current administration has a different view of electric vehicles than the previous administration does. Clearly, they're going to be cutting some funding. Is that going to change Ionna's plans? You originally promised us 30,000 charging stalls by 2030.
Yeah.
The fact that there's less government, let's say, backing, support, is that going to perhaps maybe slow Ionna's expansion because you're going to match what demand is, or are you going to still commit to what you originally committed to?
And of course, you can imagine there were discussions also around the shareholders, but when it comes to Ionna, the message was crystal clear. So we need chargers, we need reliable chargers, and this is all shareholders clearly committed, as well as we, to really stay on the goal. So the goal is really for Ionna to install 30,000 chargers until end of the decade. This is a clear goal, no reduction, so to say, because there might be some questions.
Okay, final question. I always talk about how long does it take to add 200 miles to an electric vehicle at a DC fast charger, because I think that's a legitimate stop. Like 200 miles can get you a few hours of driving. Every electric vehicle has different charging speeds. What does Ionna have a goal of, like, throughput? Like, what do you consider an adequate amount of time that it takes to people to charge at your stations?
I mean, as you already see out of the data, the capabilities of the car park, also the existing car parks, is very different. So it's hard to really set a target in average. But what is clear is we try to set up Ionna that the charging infrastructure is not limiting the capabilities of the car. And of course you see the cars rising up, I mean talking about 800 volt technologies and so on, so charging speed will go up, and we take care of Ionna chargers are capable for providing these kind of high power.
Okay, listen, that's all I have here today. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much, and good luck with Ionna.
Thank you very much.
All right, so I don't know if you were counting, but I was able to get 7 of the 8 companies on camera there. The only company I missed out was Kia's, and that wasn't their fault. They had somebody there that was willing to go on camera with me, but I ran out of time. We had like an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes to get all this done, and I had a flight that I had to catch, and I barely made my flight. I was the last one on the plane. I think they were holding the door for me, and unfortunately, I didn't have time to either get Kia, and I also wanted to talk to Seth Cutler, Ionna's CEO, on camera, but we just ran out of time. I wish that they had made this event a little bit longer. I would have booked a little bit of a later flight, but as it is, I think we got a lot of information packed in there. Heck, this video's over an hour already. I think that's long enough for you guys. I will say that I do plan on hooking up with Ionna again sometime soon and talking to Seth on camera about some of their progress. We're going to arrange that pretty soon. I have a good working relationship with Ionna so far, and there's no reason to believe that's not going to continue. I still have a lot of questions I have for Seth, so hopefully I can set that up soon, and we could do a little bit more of a deep dive interview, kind of like what I did a few months ago. But now that there's more information out there, I have more questions. So keep an eye out for that, and I will drop links to all my previous Ionna videos in the description of this video. And if this is your first time here at State of Charge, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming electric vehicle news and reviews. And as always, thanks for watching.